What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Raw Unscripted Show. I am your host, Christopher Rausch, the No Excuses Coach, and I'm delighted to have you guys here, whether you're watching live on the video cast or you're watching on the replay or you're checking us out anywhere podcasts are sold. Thank you guys for being here. I appreciate you. We've been doing this show now for 5 years, and we are on episode 267. So I invite you, if you're new to the show, thank you guys for being here and checking it out. We're in 20 plus countries right now, and we are a top 10% rated podcast all over the world. So thank you guys for helping me make that happen. And if you're new to the show, go back and listen to some of the shows because people want to work with me as a No Excuses Coach. I'm in demand. And one of the best ways to check me out is to go back and listen to this podcast because inevitably I have probably shared most of what I would ever coach you on in these 266 episodes that I've already completed. It's my heart and soul that I pour into these, whether it's a solo show where it's just me talking about a particular topic, usually ones you guys ask me to talk about, or if I'm talking with a guest and we're just riffing on what the fact is of what it takes to be resilient, what it takes to shift our perspectives, what it takes to have unstoppable kick-ass confidence. So I invite you to go back and check out those episodes because there's some pretty amazing ones in there that will change your life. And I know a lot of you guys right now are struggling and people are amidst a lot of chaos in their life with the economy and with the political process and with all sorts of stuff that are happening in our lives. What I teach you is how to respond to those situations versus react. And so many times we react because we're emotional, because we're close to the situation. So I invite you to take a step back from whatever it is that's stressing you out. Look at it with a different set of eyes. Ask yourself how you would look at it from the person's eyes that you respect the most, and then take that advice for yourself and then learn how to chillax as I talk about it and learn how to really just appreciate the moments, because at the end of the day, most people are either thinking about the past and how they screwed up or how they wish they would have done things differently, or they're thinking about the future and they're worrying and they have fear and they have a hesitation about what it is that they're doing. But so many times we don't really live truly in the moment, and that's where the gift of life is. So I invite you guys to do that here on the Raw Unscripted Show every single week. And if you've been living under a rock or if you've been not following me for quite some time, I'm happy to report that this book about my life, this is a mock cover, by the way. It's Just You and Me Kid. It's justyoumandmekid.com. If you go there, I promise you this year it's going to be out. I know I said this last year, but unfortunately I ran into some technical difficulties with the editing process. And quite honestly, I learned to take my own advice because I'm my own best coaching client. And I realized the book wasn't ready to come out last year. So it is going to be ready to come out this fall. So if you go to itsjustyoumandmekid.com, you guys can help me make it a bestseller by signing up. All you got to do is put your name and your email in there. I promise I won't spam you. I don't send out very many emails to my newsletter list. If you've been on my newsletter list, you guys know that I probably do it about once a quarter, if that. I probably haven't done one in the last 6 months. But if you're on that list, I promise you will get first chance and opportunity to get the book. And not only that, I put a bunch of extras on the website for helping me make it a bestseller. I know for me, when I buy somebody's autobiography, I usually have a ton of questions like, what about this? Whatever happened to that person? And so what I'm going to do for you guys that help me make it a bestseller is I'm going to do a live Zoom call. And then once you get an opportunity to read the book, you can ask me any questions. And I'm also going to tell you about stories that I wasn't able to put in the book because my life has been an amazing roller coaster of amazing highs and some pretty catastrophic lows. So I'm offering that, a whole bunch of other stuff that if you help me make it a bestseller, just by visiting It's Just You and Me Kid, you guys can help me out with that. I would love and appreciate you as well. And the other thing I want to talk about housekeeping wise is accountability. One of the biggest things that's missing from our lives in order to to really achieve our goals is accountability, personal accountability. And what I hear most often is the lack of discipline that most individuals have. And I raise both hands. I have a coach. I have a mentor. I've been in many group coaching programs. I've been in many mentorship programs and masterminds and all sorts of different things to get to the place where I'm at today. So I highly encourage you guys, if you're missing accountability in your life, I offer a super, super, super affordable group coaching program. It's an accountability program. We meet twice a month over Zoom. You have a weekly accountability partner. You have a private Facebook group page. You can ask me questions anytime. I make it ridiculously affordable because to work with me one-on-one is quite an investment. So I created this out of demand from everybody saying, Chris, I want to work with you, but I can't afford it. So I've created this program. So if accountability is missing in your life and you wish to work with me and have that amazing support in your life, go to my website, noexcusescoach.com. It's super easy, noexcusescoach.com. Go to the coaching tab. You can see all the different ways to work with me, but you'll see the group accountability coaching in there. And for the first 3 months, I make it even ridiculously more insanely affordable. I mean, $30 a month for a group accountability coaching program to kick the tires is pretty amazing considering the money that I've invested invested in myself to be where I'm at today. So if you dig my style and you like what I have to say and you're not achieving the goals that you set out for yourself back in January, we're already in June. There's still this opportunity for you guys to step up to the plate, invest in yourself, get accountability. I just had somebody join the group last week, and she is already off the hook excited because she started watching some of the replays of the previous sessions that we've had. And she's like, oh my God, I can't believe how much you're charging for this and how much we get for this. And I'm like, yeah, don't keep reminding me of that. So out of the goodness of my heart, I'm offering that for you guys. And anything else that you need, please let me know. I'm actually doing a couple of solo shows coming up. So if there's a topic that you would like for me to discuss, you can send me an email. You can send me a smoke signal message through social media, however you want to get a hold of me. And I'd be happy to entertain those. Sometimes I do questions. So if you guys have a bunch of questions, send them to me and I'll take an episode and I'll answer all those questions for you. I'm here to serve. That's above all else, is I'm here to serve because I created my big why once upon a time. And that why is to make this world a better place for the things that I say and the things that I do. And so you can help me by helping me what I can do for you. And then how you pay me back is you go do 3 nice things for somebody else and we all pay it forward and we all make this world a better place, especially right now with all the chaos and insanity that's going on with the political process here in the United States, the wars that are going on overseas. We got a lot of instability, but I truly believe in my heart of hearts that about 80% of us are all amazing people, no matter what color, what sexuality, what religion, what political, whatever label you want to put on it. I believe 80% of us are all amazing folks all around this spinning blue marble in space. And so let me have the opportunity to help you, and then you go out and help somebody else, and we all contribute to that to make this world an amazing place. And talk about making this world an amazing place. I've had the opportunity to be introduced to my guest through my coach, the great Sally Anderson. And me and my guest had a conversation. I can't even remember when it was, many months ago, because we're actually booking the show into December, if you can believe that. The show is in such high demand that we're booking into December. But I had this amazing conversation with her, and I was so inspired by her enthusiasm, by her knowledge, by her experiences. So I encourage you to take notes. I encourage you to ask questions if you're here live on the video cast. If you're on the replay of the video cast, even still ask questions, put them in the comments, and I'll make sure either myself or my guest answers those to make sure that you guys are getting the massive value and service for spending your time with me tonight. We got Robert Brooker in the house. What's up, Robert? Thank you for being here, my friend. And without any further ado, I would love for you guys to help me in welcoming Angelic Marnier to the Raw Unscripted Show. What's going on, Angelic?
Hey, what's going on, Christopher?
Inglewood in the house.
Inglewood.
See, I remember that. Tell them about our Inglewood story.
Indeed. How are you? Good to see you.
I'm awesome. I'm amazing. I'm excited to have you on here because I always like having high energy people. As you can tell, I'm a little high energy. But welcome to the show. I appreciate that. The Inglewood story is that we found out we were both from Inglewood. Is that right? If I remember it correctly?
We're both from. Yep. I lived there as an adolescent and into my teenage years, and still represent for the Inglewood, the city of Inglewood. It's big now. They got stadiums and they got hotels, and it looks a whole lot different than it did when we were there. That's for sure.
It does. I grew up there in 1969 to 1974, 1975, I think it was. And one of my greatest memories, my mom's passed now, and obviously that's what the book is about, is my life with her. But we went to a Metallica concert at the Forum back when it was called the Forum. And we were driving there. We were getting there earlier, and I said, "Hey, I got an idea." And she's like, "What?" And I said, "I'm not going to tell you." And so I get off the freeway, I punch into to MapQuest or whatever the hell I was using at the time, and I tapped in 110th Street. And so I took us down the street that we lived on when I was a little kid.
Wow.
And at that time I was driving an 89 Ford Bronco lifted with big tires. And when I turned down the street, I was shocked at how little the street was. Like, I remember playing on that street, riding my big wheel on the street, but my truck took up the entire street, and with the cars parked on each side of it, it was pretty crazy. But we hadn't been there in so long that so many people had grew trees and bushes and all sorts of stuff. We couldn't recognize what our house was, but it was crazy to think that she and I had gone through so many different experiences in our life. I mean, I left there when I was 5 years old. And we just sat there and kind of reminisced, like being on welfare and food stamps and the crime and the shootings and all sorts of different stuff to ultimately be now going to a Metallica concert. I think she was in her 60s at the time. Just an amazing life. And speaking of amazing lives, do us a favor and tell the viewers and the listeners just a little bit about Angelic and what makes you a rock star.
A rock star, yes. Well, thank you again, Christopher, for allowing me to be on your platform. I'm excited. I was listening to you talk about your group program and the accountability. I was like, hey, we all need to be in there. So I think we should all be in that group right there, especially for how much you're charging. I was like, okay,
Oh,
let's
it's
go.
ridiculous.
So yeah, I'm Angelic Marnier, originally from Washington, D.C., but yep, grew up in Inglewood, California, and probably like a lot of people, just trying to figure it out. I grew up in the 90s where it was like flashy, everybody wanted to rock a Rolex and, with an ice bezel. And, I listened to all the hip hop. So I wanted that dream lifestyle too. I want to live in the hills and I want to have a lot of money. But like a lot of people also in Inglewood, I did not have that. My mom and I kind of struggled, financially for a good portion of my life. And so I was always looking for how can I get out of this circumstance? And so I found my first road in there with by getting into real estate. That was my inroads. And then from real estate, got into a couple other entrepreneurial journeys. And then finally, after failing several times at entrepreneurship, I'll be honest, literally failing. I tried drop shipping and affiliate marketing and multi-level marketing and Forex, trading stocks. Like none of that stuff worked for me. I'll be honest with you, Christopher. And then finally I rolled the dice and I got a coach. And he was like, hey, let me show you exactly how to make money in the online space. And he started showing me how to create digital courses. And I have to say that was finally that financial game changer that actually allowed me to, one, have the lifestyle that I wanted, but two, also make the kind of money I really wanted to make. And so that's really that's the journey, like, all the way from Inglewood to these days right now where I work every day in the digital space from my house.
I love it. I love it. And so I just to make sure everybody heard that online courses, not online horses, because I almost heard online horses. I was like, wait a minute, somebody's going to get confused, but online courses. So given the discussion we're going to have tonight about resiliency and about failing our way to success, what do you want most for the viewers and the listeners to walk away from this conversation, knowing and understanding in their heart of hearts based on what your experiences are?
I would love for them to know, no matter what the background is, and no matter what you think, I don't know enough, you can get into the online space. Honestly, Christopher, last year, 2023, online courses did about $1 billion, like almost every single day. We as a collective took our money, our hard-earned money, and we bought online courses. So from any and everything, from how to anything, like how to bake the perfect macaroon. I've done courses on stuff like that, to working with doctors and lawyers and stuff like that. But no matter how, if you know how to skateboard or DJ, like anything that you know how to do, you literally can monetize it, and people will pay you all the time, almost every day, probably, for whatever you're great at. So the main thing I want people to know is, despite what you lack or what you don't think you have something that people will buy. That is the main thing. I'm the evangelist. I scream this from the hills every day, because it's honestly been a financial game changer for me, I have to say.
That's beautiful. I love that. And you talked about failing. You talked about taking risks and going out there and doing different things. Talk to us about what we can help people, because I can hear people already sitting there, oh, but who's going to want to listen to me? I don't know enough about anything to be smart about this stuff. What are some tips and advice you would have for people to clear the negativity from their mind and really realize that it may take multiple attempts, but ultimately they're going to find what it is that they're really great at?
Yeah, I would say, because we've all been there, right? When I was actually in corporate America, and then I came into the entrepreneurship journey, and that's exactly what I thought. Like, hey, I work in corporate America. Who in the world is going to listen to me? I don't really know how to do anything. And also, I'll be honest with you, Christopher, I had zero followers. I didn't do any social media before this, so I had no following, nobody backing me. And of course, I was just like everybody else, like, yeah, nobody's going to listen to me. But what I have to say for myself is, I was like, well, if it's not this, then what? And sometimes you got to ask yourself that, like, okay, so if I'm not going to do this, am I going to go back to the corporate job, or am I going to go to this job that I hate, or am I going to continue to do something I don't like? Why don't you at least try to cook something up in the background? That's what I tell people. Continue with your day-to-day job that you hate or is not making you the money. Just cook something up in the background, make some money in the background. And then once you see that it's working, you can continue. If it fails, who cares? You still got the money coming in from your other job. Nobody probably knows that you failed, and then go to that next thing. But I would just say there's something in all of us that we can monetize. Just like how you said you have a book about your life. You didn't know that your life was going to make you money, but it did. So we all can find something that we can monetize throughout our life. Whatever you overcome, if you overcome, high blood pressure, or if you've overcome, I have a client right now who helps people with that are trying to stay sober. Like, because she went through it, she can now show other people how to do it. So even if you failed at sobriety, but you figured it out, you can now show people the pitfalls and how to not have your same shortcomings, and people will pay you for that transformation. So no matter what your shortcomings are, we've all had shortcomings. None of us, just got scot-free, but there's plenty of money to be made in this industry.
There totally is. And I love that you talk about, I nicknamed it a side hustle. So for me, my coaching and my speaking and my podcasting were for 20 years, my side hustle. It was like actually my passion project. Most people had different types of hobbies. My hobbies happen to have been motivating people and inspiring people to think differently. And so I had my corporate job, but it wasn't until November of 2019 where I started realizing, like, okay, I've been doing this side hustle for quite some time. And I always thought, okay, when my side hustle makes as much money as my day job does, and I finally realized that that's never going to happen because I'm investing 80% of my time in my day job and only 20% of my time in my side hustle. So in November 2019, I found myself, as I like to term it, comfortably miserable. I made great money. I had the corner office. I'd been at the same job for 26 years. I love leading people. It was in my niche. I have a master's degree in organizational management. So it was like easy for me to do. But at the end of the day, I was also realizing, like, okay, is this what I'm going to be remembered for? As the guy who suggested everybody else take the chances and take the risks, and me just sit here and stay comfortably miserable because I was broke and poor and homeless as a kid? No. And so November 2019, push came to shove, and my employer and I came to a mutual frustration factor. And I walked in one day, and unbeknownst to me, I got invited to leave. And I sat there and I thought it was the worst day of my life. I thought, oh my God, how can they do this for me? But then I realized, probably took me about 6 weeks of kind of like wondering what the hell happened, because we had talked about my succession plan. We talked about me leaving, but we talked about doing it together and, making a whole plan out of it. I didn't realize they were just going to sit there and kick me out the door. But then I realized what I thought was my worst day was actually my best day, because God, source, universe, whatever you believe in, said, okay, Chris, you're ready. You're ready, Chris. You need to go. You need to go. You're obviously not going to do it on your own. So I'm going to kick your ass and I'm going to get you out of here. And once I accepted that, and I realized that I've been doing all this preparation work, that it was a blessing. It was a blessing in disguise. And then obviously when I really made the determination to do it full time, 2 weeks later, COVID hit. And so I was like, okay, this is perfect timing. Like, I wouldn't have been able to do my job anyway. So I was able to do online. I haven't done online courses, but I've done online group coaching, and I've been able to do that. But again, the fear crops up for us because we feel like maybe we're going to be an imposter. What types of suggestions do you have for people who feel that potentially they might have that imposter syndrome? Like, again, going back to who am I, perhaps you can share some success stories of some people that you worked with, and maybe some crazy things that they've come up with taking online courses. You talked about making the ultimate macaroon or something like that.
Right. Yeah. No, I would say even to this day, I know I do. I still have some days like, am I doing this right? Or am I making an impact? Or, am I, is this going well? Like, so we all get the imposter syndrome, but I would say, just think of it like this. Always know that as long as you're 5 steps ahead of whoever you're teaching, you got this. You're always going to be 5 steps ahead until you can always teach them. You can always help them get to their next level. You can help them overcome or preclude them from going into the same pitfalls you did. Like, so even on your worst day, you're still 5 steps ahead. So you're still their guru. You're still the person that they're listening to. You're still the person they're looking up to for guidance. So you got this, no matter what. You're always going to stay 5 steps ahead. So just think about that whenever you have imposter syndrome, because it happens to even the best of them. Just remember, whoever you're coaching, whoever you're helping, you're 5 steps ahead. As far as success stories, or, even clients that I work with, one of my clients, Chanel, I would have to say, like, she was on her last leg, about to get, fired or whatever or laid off from her job. So we really had to hurry up and hustle and kind of figure something out. Got the online course up. I mean, Chanel's gone on to make, 10 to 15 and her launch, so, and basically what she did at that time, she was doing an Airbnb. And she just showed other people how to start their first Airbnbs. Yeah, so that's the kind of the cool stuff that we do. Another one of my clients, Emmanuel Ilaye, he helps people in e-commerce, and he was doing really, really well at that. But he had 0 time freedom. Like, he had an agency, he had staff, he had all these clients, so he was doing really, really well, but he had no freedom. And so when he came to me, he was very skeptical, Christopher, like very, very skeptical about online courses. Will it work? And he finally was like, all right, Angelique, I'm going to just follow your lead. We did a launch for him We did a 3-day challenge. We did the launch, and he made $5,500 from just one launch. And then what was so cool, Christopher, is that two of those, it was just two people who signed up, who actually bought. They ended up becoming clients of his, and they were recurring clients, paying him $5,500 each month. He made about $65,000-$70,000 from one thing. And from there, he started taking off. Like, he's got memberships now. He's got everything going. Yeah, just from that one, just giving me a shot, just giving me one shot. We got it going. And he's now in Africa right now, living his best life. Like, he got his freedom. And that was really what was important. Like, he was so swamped with work and having that agency life that it was like working a 9 to 5 where you have no time.
Right.
It's actually getting his freedom back because he's making this money. The course, you create the course, one time, but you sell it over and over and over again. And he, like I said, he started his own membership, which he allowed him to just work with younger clients who were weren't as hardcore, pushing them to get sales and stuff like that. So good things can happen. Like I said, once you create one course, it just has so many other tentacles to help you. You can start getting like one-on-one clients, or you can start doing speaking engagements. My client Suzanne has done that. She's gotten consulting things and speaking engagements. She's on stages now. She's creating another course with me. So many different things can happen by just creating that one course.
I love it. I love it. And one of the questions that pops into my mind is to think about, okay, I'm thinking in the terms of the person that's watching and listening to this, but I do sewing, and there's probably already 100 million sewing classes out there. What is your recommendation for differentiation? Because I know for me, when I was a suit and tie speaker, I came off a multi-speaker event, and I looked around and I'm like, okay, we're all wearing the same suit. We're all doing the same little triangle pose. We're all saying the same shit. And I realized, I wasn't happy. I was successful, but I wasn't happy. And so I sat there and I thought, okay, deep down inside, I'm a rocker, I'm a biker, I'm a smart ass. I swear, back in those days, swearing was unconscionable for professional speakers or for any online spaces. But I just decided, you know what? I'm going to differentiate myself, and I'll probably lose, a lot of my following. But at the end of the day, I want to feel whole and complete. What is your advice for people to have that additional flair on their product to maybe differentiate themselves from the masses that are probably putting out the same types of videos?
Yeah, that's a great question. I love that question. Just figure out what makes you authentically you. Like I would really key in on that. Like, if you sew, and yeah, there might be other courses for people who sew, but are they for people who, are rockers or men who sew? Like, figure out, what makes, just think about that. Like for me, I helped people create online courses. But when I first started, Christopher, I started with women like me who were in a corporate job who wanted to get out. So I was like, hey, if you're in corporate America and you're like me and you want to get out, online courses are a way to do that, right? So that's what differentiated me. Yeah, I could have just created any type of course on how to create courses, but I was like, no, let me go after the niche, the people I can actually speak to. So if you speak to other men who sew, you're like, hey, I'm a rocker, I swear, and things like that. But if you want to sew with me, I'll show you how to get this done. That's something that will just differentiate you, and whatever it is, like whatever, even if you feel like you're weird, like, I know some people who, are really woo-woo. Well, be that woo-woo person. There's a tribe who is looking for you. Maybe you're Christian, maybe you're Jewish, whatever it is, figure out what makes you authentically you. And even if other people think you're weird, if you come out and you're just authentically you, there's going to be so many people like, oh my gosh, he or she, they look like me. They feel, I'm going with it. I don't care about this other stuff. They speak to me. I like them. They resonate with me. I see them in myself. If they're able to do this, I can too. Like, you just got to figure out what makes you authentically you, what makes you different, and what is it that, would attract other people. So that's what I would say. Yeah, there's plenty of, almost every course has probably been made, but if you figure out who your target audience is, who your tribe is, and speak directly to their pain points, they're going to rock with you for sure.
So true. I love that. I love that advice. I love that advice because I know for me, in my uniqueness and the way I speak and the way I deliver information, I've had so many people because we've talked about the subject on the show before is differentiation. I've had so many people reach out to me like, oh, I mean, like you were saying, like men who sew. I've had people who are listening to speed metal and they do cooking classes. So like they literally do online cooking classes. I actually helped coach somebody through this, and they were talking about the differentiation. I said, what makes you different? She goes, well, I listen to Slayer and Pantera while I cook. And I'm like, well, fucking play that. Like, let's figure out how you can get the licensing for it and play that. So you're a speed metal chef who like, so people are digging in like, oh my God, I know that song. And then you could talk about music as you're doing it. Like, oh, I remember this time I went to this Pantera concert and and I staged over, whatever it might be. So that is so important. I want to make sure people really listen to that, because that differentiation, not only does it make you stand out from the rest, but you find I say fly your freak flag. And I don't mean that in a sexual way, but I say fly your freak flag. Like me, I am who I am. I tell people I'm a cross between George Carlin and Tony Robbins at an AC/DC concert. Like, so if you dig George Carlin and his sarcastic comedy, if you dig Tony Robbins and his motivation, and you like AC/DC, that's probably what you're going to get with me. You're going to get a hyped up rocker who's going to be talking fast and being sarcastic and saying things that are going to kind of punch you in the teeth. And you're going to go, did I enjoy that? I'm not sure. So it is really about that. And the thing that happens when you do that is you connect with people. Because you're coming from that authentic place. You're like, hey man, I'm a speed metal person that's going to teach you how to make a quiche, whatever it might be. And then there's always going to be that audience, because there's 8 billion people on the planet and we're serving everybody from all over the world. When you're rocking and flying your freak flag and you're in that zone and you're in that vibration and you're in that frequency, people are going to get that. Like, holy Chris, I dig Chris. Oh my God, I get Angelique. I love her her enthusiasm. You know, I'm stuck in a dead end job, and people are going to do that because when they know, like, and trust you, that's when they're going to purchase from you. So I love the fact that you bring that up. One of the things I want to kind of go into is kind of your backstory and talk about what makes you unique. So talk to us about like maybe like a low time in your life and what it was, if you're able to share it, and then what you learned most from that, because I know so many people are watching this right now and they're going through a tough time. And what I want to do is use part of this conversation to inspire people, because they're going to look at you and like, oh my God, well, she's so pretty and she's so successful and she had a corporate job and she has all these things. I'm not anything like her, but we've all gone through some pretty shitty times in our life. So I'd appreciate it if you would talk about some of those and maybe what it is that you learned and you gained from that.
Yeah, that's a good one. Let's see, which one should I pick? You know, like,
I know I've got a whole book of them.
Right? You know, exactly. You have a whole book. I will say, coming into the online space, I really came in bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, like, oh, I'm gonna crush it. You know, I got tenacity. You know, I'm smart, and I got God on my side. And I came right on out, quit my corporate job, no plan, just like, I'm gonna crush it in this online space. And Chris, when I tell you, I fell flat on my butt and really was just like awakened, like, oh, it took more than just hard work in the online space. It didn't matter that you got up every morning and you posted and you let people know. They don't care. Like, I wasn't getting 0 likes. You know how hard it is to pour your heart and soul into these posts, into these lives, come on live every day, and 0 eyeballs, no likes. Like, it'll be that. Talk about imposter syndrome. Like, you're really like, gosh. And I remember I got in around the same time you did in 2019, and it just wasn't any traction. I was just like, gosh, and I was going live every day. I was posting every day. I had a Facebook group. I was jumping on podcasts. I was networking. I was doing all of the things. And I'm like, this is not fair. In my head, I was like, this is not fair. Like, I'm doing the work. You know, God, I'm doing the work. Like, what's up?
I feel you.
And I remember sitting in my bed one day and I was like, gosh, why don't they like me? And it was gut wrenching, because I was really about to give up, because I was like, they don't like me, and I feel like I'm a likable person.
Oh,
and I'm
putting
in the work. My thing was, I'm putting in the work, and everything else in life I had ever done, whether it's relationships, friendships, if you put the work in, you got the result. But I was not seeing that in the online space. That's why when people come to me and it's not working, I get it. Like, I have a heart for that. When you put in your heart and soul and you really need to make some money, Chris, I don't know if you've been there where you need to make some money. Yeah. And it's just like, and I remember, and I remember somebody telling me, they're like, you're not really authentic. Like, you're too happy. You're telling us only good things that are happening. And you know what? I can't relate. Yeah, we're like, I don't relate to that. You're happy and you're bubbly and you're saying everything's perfect. And that's not what my life looks like. And so I'll be honest with you, Chris, I had to take off that mask. That entrepreneurship wasn't that easy for me. Yeah, I was getting, like you said, kicked in the gut and punched in the teeth every day. This online thing, although I was online every day, it's going good. It wasn't. And once I really explained to people, like, hey, I had to get out of my corporate job because my blood pressure was through the roof and I was stressing myself out. Or, hey, this entrepreneurial thing is not that easy. And actually, I don't even know if I'm going to make it. That's when people were like, oh, so what do you do again? Hey, can you help me? Because I'm in that same position. It wasn't until I really was willing to be transparent and really be myself and let people know that I did have, you know, tragedies and this was tough. It wasn't until then. And that was hard for me, Chris, because I just want to be a bubbly. I don't want to show people the real, but it wasn't until then. And then I started making sales. And, and I have to say that was one of the hardest lessons I had to learn was, you know, being transparent.
Yeah, I feel you 1,000%. I have so many people that come to me and say, well, like I'll be doing an introductory coaching session or with them. And they're like, but Chris, you're always so happy and you're always so positive and you have so much energy and so much enthusiasm. I don't have that. And so before I would never say anything because I was like, well, I got to be the strong one. I got to be the one they look up to. But the same thing when I was talking with Sally and when I was working with some people, I realized that I sat there and I said, okay, you don't see me the other 23 hours of the day. You see me on a 5-minute live, you see me on a 1-minute TikTok, you see me on whatever. I said, but you don't see me in those moments where I wake up in the morning and I sit there and I wonder if today is going to be the day. You don't see me when I'm sitting there and I'm having to have positive conversations with myself throughout the entire day. Like, Chris, you're on point, you're on mission. You guys don't see me. And so the same thing, once I started doing videos like that and letting people know, like, hey guys, I'm not coming to you today feeling all spirited. I'm coming to you today feeling frustrated and disappointed and rejected. But I know in these moments, and I would share with them, like, okay, here's how I talk to myself in these moments. I know that everything that has happened in my life and everything that is happening in my life is preparing me for what's next. So when I'm in those down moments, I think back to the hero's journey, which is an amazing video on YouTube. I just have my group coaching clients watch it. The hero's journey, it's called the Joseph Campbell story. It's like an hour and 23 minutes. It's free. And it talks about how we go through these ups and downs, these peaks and these valleys. And what is it that we do when we're in those valleys? We learn and grow the most. Not when things are easy and everything's, chill. We learn and grow the most when those challenges come up and those adversities come up, because then it allows us to have our check-in moments and be able to realize that we're not perfect and not everything is supposed to be perfect. And that when people realize that about us, that they connect with us and they realize, like, oh my God, that person's just like me. And they have those similar experiences, because no, entrepreneurship is not easy. It's not. Some days I sit there and even to this day, I'll raise my hand. Some days I think, man, I could go back to a corporate job. I don't have to worry about any of this. I can make 6 figures. I can leave it at the door, but I never did. And that was probably my problem, because I worked 16 hours a day and I cared way too much and I invested myself way too much. And I got to the point where I was like, okay, I'm done with that. And then everybody was like, hey, Chris, you're not working 20 hours a day anymore. Why aren't you getting this done? And I'm like, because you need 3 people to do my job and I'm not going to do it. And that's where the friction started to happen. And so I love the fact that you brought that up, because in today's world, we got to be real. There's so many people. And I think that's part of the problem with the personal growth space. I was just talking with a few of my friends and we were comparing notes. Like, the coaching industry has been tainted with so much bullshit. The speaking industry is no longer a pay to speak industry. Now it's, you have to pay to play. I just had a buddy of mine who normally gets $25,000 for a keynote. He got invited. They said, oh, we'd love for you to come speak at our event. And he's like, okay, cool. And he's like, well, because you're so well known, we'll only charge you $10,000. And he's telling me the story and he's like, oh, what the fuck? He goes, excuse me, I didn't hear that right. You're only going to charge me. And so many things have changed. So we've had to pivot. But I love the fact that what you bring into the equation is to be real, to be yourself. And that's what's going to create those connections. My next question for you is, because I am the No Excuses coach, what are your excuses and how do you process and how do you overcome your excuses?
My excuse usually is, that's not fair. I was like, that's not fair. Because sometimes I just feel, I'm like, that's not fair. That shouldn't be happening to me. That shouldn't be happening to me. That is an excuse. How to get over that, I don't know, Christopher, because I still work on that every day. But how to get over it? Bottom line, like anybody will tell you, life's not fair. So it just is. And instead of figuring out what the problem is, let's be solution oriented. And that's really how I really am able to even cope every day. Because sometimes it's just like, what? But okay, instead of focusing on what the issue is, what's the solution? Instead of, even when you get on with clients or, a team, it's like, okay, we know what the problem was. Let's not focus on that. Okay, we're all emotional about it, but this is business. What is the solution? How are we going to figure this out? And that to me is really how I deal with the things that punch you in the gut. Okay, what's the solution? Okay, right. Do I need to get a coach? Do I need to read a book? Do I need to go call a friend? Do I need to cry? What is the solution to get me through this so I can what? Yeah, because you can't just sit there, because that's what, as far as no excuses. Like, there's no excuses, then okay, instead of being a victim, which sometimes, I want to be a little baby girl too and be coddled and, it's going to woo, it's going to be okay. But that is not what I have found is going to allow you to accelerate. To accelerate, you got to step on whatever that issue is, pick yourself up, and just keep going. And all of these things, as I'm pretty sure your audience knows them too, but I'm very solution oriented.
Yeah, I mean, it's example. That's perfect example, because I tell people you're either part of the problem or part of the solution. And to that point, I tell people you can have a 1-day pity party. And I have those too. I had one last week where I sat there and said, I'm just really frustrated. I'm disappointed. And as part of the solution aspect of it is I asked myself, okay, what were my expectations? Were my expectations realistic? Because usually at the time of things not being fair or feeling rejected or feeling disappointed or anything is because our expectations were leveled too high. We based it on previous experience and like, well, I expect this and I think this and I deserve this. And then all of a sudden the results come in and that's where we're disappointed. And so we have to ask ourselves, am I being a victim or am I being a victor? And the other thing I recommend to people in those situations is, what advice would I give to somebody having a similar situation? Because all of us have the advice in us. You know, like somebody came to us and said, Angelique, you know, I'm constantly disappointed. You know, what advice do you have? And you would come up with something. So for me, like I said at the top of the show, I'm my own best coaching client. So in those moments, I sit there and think, okay, Chris, if so-and-so walked through the door right now and had this similar problem, what advice would you give? Or what questions do you ask? Because I mean, a lot of what I do in my coaching is asking questions. And so I would sit there and probably ask them this, and ask them that. And so then I take my advice, but I allow myself that 1-day pity party because we're all human. And to deny that and just sit there and say, okay, I pull myself up from the bootstraps every single time, it's exhausting. Because at the end of the day, life is hard, but it's worth it. And that's what I tell people. It's like, you know, I have a tattoo on my right forearm. It says, what doesn't kill me only makes me stronger. Because in 2016, I was going through down times and I stopped coaching because I wasn't being congruent. And I just realized I say that every day is a new day and what doesn't kill me makes me stronger. So I went to the tattoo shop and I said, can you please put that right there? It's literally right there. And I said, can you put that right there so that when I'm being a pissy little shit, I can look down and say, Chris, what am I supposed to be learning from this? And that's a great question for us to ask ourselves in those moments where we're down is, what am I supposed to be learning from this? What is this trying to teach me? What have I done to set myself up for that rejection? What have I done to set myself up for that disappointment? Maybe I haven't communicated. And usually for me, it's because I haven't communicated something to somebody, or I haven't sought out a professional to ask that advice or their opinion. I've just taken it based on my experience and said, okay, well, I think that it should be this. And I should, you know, I like this group coaching program. I'll be perfectly honest. I priced it so stupidly affordable. And I did it for about 10 people who said, Chris, I can't afford it. Those 10 people did it for 3 months, the kick your tires pricing, and all 10 of them have segued out. And what I realized, I took it personal and I was like, okay, what's this? And I'm like, I just really had to sit there and decide they're not ready. If the price wasn't an excuse, then it became time. Oh, Chris, I can't do it on Mondays. And so I had one individual out of the 10, I think 8 of them came up with it. Oh, I can't do Mondays at this time anymore. And so one individual said, you know what, the pricing's so amazing. I don't need to be there live. I'll just watch the replay. So I literally have one person in the group coaching program. He doesn't have an accountability partner. All he does is watch the replays, and he participates in the private Facebook group, but he didn't come up with that excuse. And so sometimes we have to let those individuals go beyond their way. But sometimes I'm sitting there going, okay, what is the problem? Like I priced it affordably. It's there. But then I just realized, okay, what is it that I need to do differently? And I think that's one thing that people can take away from this part of the conversation is, what can I do differently? And so my next question for you is, I love questions. What are some questions you like to ask yourself or you like to ask your clients that inspires them to think differently?
That inspires them to think differently. I'm always asking them, and it's very simple, but what are you great at? Because really that is what you can teach others. It doesn't have to be this big, you know, I got to go back to school, or I got to go get certified, or I got to be, you know, Tony Robbins, you know, no, just like, what are you great at? Like, what do people come to you for advice about? Or even what have you overcome in life? Like literally, we have
That's a great one. What have you overcome in life? I love that.
Like literally, like, you know, like some people have been through domestically violent situations. Some people have, like I said, gotten through corporate America. Some people have gotten, been drug abusers. Some people have been in prison. And I know that these things might sound extreme to some people, but I want to speak to those people that are in that situation so they know you can show somebody else how. I have a client right now, and you know, he was like, you know, he was in prison and he's turned his whole life around. He's married now. He's got businesses. How did you do that? He wants to show other people how to do that. You know, maybe you're adopted child or something when you feel like you were less because of that. But how did you get through that? So that's to me always like, what have you been through? What have you overcome? We have all overcome something. Like, even if you are rich, beautiful, tall, handsome, like you still had to figure something out. I don't know what it was, but you had to figure out, You had to figure out how to not be conceited or how to not become a drug addict. You know, a lot of people who are rich, you know, and fancy and, you know, handsome, they ended up on drugs, you know. So how did you not do that? Whatever your situation is, I'm just like, what are you great at? And I know people want me to say, what are you passionate about? Passion is great, but I really ask people, like, what are you great at? Because that's really what you can show other people how to do. And I love people who are passionate. So if you're passionate about something, go for that too. But sometimes what people are passionate about, it's not a lot of other people are passionate about it too. So you might not make some money. So that's why I say, like, what have you overcome? Because people always need help with how-tos, how to get through a divorce, how to have a troubled teenager in your home. Like I said, there's so many things, the how-tos, you know, whatever it is, figure that part out. But just what are you great at? What have you overcome? That's the question I ask most often when people come to me and are not sure what they can create a course about. That's the first question. And they come out with all kinds of things. And then from there, we're able to pick one thing and then just crush it with that course. And they go on to make other courses because they got this list of things, but just figure out one thing and go, you know, all out massive action on that one thing.
I love that. I love that. Be very intentional is what you're saying. And that's what I love, because sometimes people don't know what they're great at. I'm like, what is it that you can do uninterrupted for hours on end that you don't even think about? And so, like, for me, coaching and speaking, my wife used to call me a compulsive motivationalist. Like, I would talk to the waitress, I would talk to the bartender, I would talk to anybody, like, oh, you're not happy in your life? Well, here, you could do this. Oh yeah. I was obsessed, almost to the point, actually not even to the point where, and I just saw my friends this weekend. I don't see them very often, but I just saw them this weekend. So it reminds me of the story. They had an intervention with me, and it wasn't about drugs. It wasn't about alcohol. It was about, God damn it, Chris, I can't have a bad day in front of you. Literally, that's what it was. Yeah, that wasn't planned, but they all just started talking to me, and they became this dog pile session, which I felt like it was. But they're like, Chris, you know, I sit there and say I'm having a bad day, and you're like, do you realize there's people out there who haven't eaten in 3 days? Do you really, you know, I'm just like, you know, changing their perspective, and they're like, Chris, sometimes I need to have a bad day to have a bad day. And so I took that, and they're like, we want Chris that plays guitar. We want Chris that talks about music. We want Chris that drinks. You know, you don't need to be on all the time. And where my perspective was, I thought I was always helping people, I was coming off a little bit too obsessed and too aggressive in those situations. So it was good that I had friends in my life to be able to sit there and say, Chris, just tone it down a little bit. It's okay. You don't need, we know that you're there. And if we have a bad day, we know we can come to you, but you don't need to fix everything all the time. And so I was glad I had those people in my life, because it's always important to have people in our lives. And I think that's where I feel sad for people. And I want to get your take on this, because there's so many people sitting there in quiet desperation. And I hear one of the big excuses I still hear to this day, which blows my mind, is, Chris, I don't know how. Like, Chris, I don't know how to start a course. So, Chris, I don't know how to do this. I'm like, okay, there's Google, there's YouTube, there's ChatGPT, but most importantly, there's experts out there who can sit there and answer your questions and guide you along that path. So when people hire you, Angelique, what is it? What process do you start them off with? Like, kind of walk through us without giving away your secrets, obviously. Sure. What is it like to work with you, and what are some of the things you have them focus on right away? Because maybe they think, oh my God, a course sounds so overwhelming, and I wouldn't even know where to start. What are some of those things that you take them through to kind of make it easier for them?
Yeah. So just to piggyback on what you said, a lot of them are just like, Angelique, where do I start? How do I do this? I don't know how. And so, like we just said, like, figure out, just write down for a sec, just take 20 minutes out of your day. What are you good at? What are you passionate about? What have you overcome? What do people come to you for advice about? Because those are all things that you can actually monetize. You can actually make money from those things. So that would be the first step. Second step is start just kind of putting it around in your brain. Who would be somebody who would buy? Like, is it millennials? Is it single moms? Is it soccer dads? Is it CEO men? Like, who would be you? Just think about that. So figure out what your topic would be, who might buy it. Just start right there, because now you got a topic and you got an audience. So you got something and you got somebody. So that's really where I would start. And then from there, just whatever your thought is about your topic. Like, say that you were thinking like, hey, how to lose 10 pounds in 10 days and, you know, fit into your wedding dress or something like that. Okay, well, what would those steps be? Just start thinking about it. Just have fun with it. Like, oh, first I would start drinking water. And then second, I would go for a walk twice a day. Whatever. Just have fun with it. This is not going to be hardcore. Just have fun with it, because that's what, like you said, Chris, everybody thinks it's overwhelming to create a course. So I'm like, hey, just think about your topic. Think about your audience. Start coming up with some ideas on what it would look like. And then if you would be so adventurous, take this phone that you already got, because everybody has a phone for the most part, 85% of the world, they say, or something like that. Got a phone? just do a quick video. Just do a quick video telling people, hey, you should drink some water. If I were you, I would drink, this kind of water, this amount of water. That's your first video. That's the first lesson or module in your course. Now you just got to create a couple more and put it all together. Like, I want to make it so simple. That's really how I would do it. If I didn't want to invest in a coach, or I didn't know what to do, those would be the first steps. That's simple, and anybody can do that. Like, literally, I don't know anybody who cannot do that. Whether you have, whether you're old or young or you don't speak English, I hear everything. I hear all the excuses, but then do it in your native tongue. Get your son or your daughter to hold the camera for you, whatever it takes, right? If you're serious about making some money or getting this done, you'll figure it out without a coach. I'm not even telling you to get a coach. You want to invest in a coach, then, we'll get this thing done. But if you don't want to do that, you know what I'm saying? If you don't want to do that, and I understand, do it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
We're here for the people who want to take it to the next level, or the people who want to do it faster. That's who I'm here for. I'm not for everybody. I am going to work with you if you are looking to make money. If you're looking to monetize, or if you're looking to take this next level, or if you want me and my team to do it for you, that's who I work with. But I also do a lot of stuff for free because I know what it's like to be broke. And so everybody can't afford to work with me. Yes, I'm going to charge for my time. Don't get mad at me for that. But if you can't afford to work with me, there's a ton of free resources I'm willing to give you. Like when you said, you don't have to give all your steps, I'll give all of my steps. Because you know why? Most people are not going to do them.
Yep. It's so true. It's so true.
So if I don't charge you for it, you won't do it. So
I learned that. I learned that lesson.
I give you my whole course for free. You won't do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you helped me with the implementation part. I mean, I helped them with the implementation part. Yeah, I found out when I first started coaching, I found out I was naturally good at it. It was before life coach even became a thing. And so I sat there and I decided, I saw the movie Pay It Forward the same week I saw Patch Adams with Robin Williams. I'm not sure if you're familiar with those movies. But I just got inspired. I'm like, okay. And I used to never tell my story about the fact that I was homeless and dug through dumpsters and tried to kill myself twice. Unfortunately, I sucked at it. I never told people those things. And so people had this misperception about me that I thought I was all that in a bag of chips. I'm like, no, you have no idea that I was bullied at school. I had my ass kicked on the way home from school. My mom kicked my ass. I had no self-confidence. People sit there and say, you're so confident. You're so this. I'm like, because I worked at it, because I took that imperfect action. But the thing is that, most people won't implement it themselves. So that's why they need us. But my question to you is, sometimes, it's one thing to build the course and do those things, but the technology side, so what are your recommendations? Do you like to use, I know there's Udemy, there's all sorts of online course things. Do you help them with that implementation as well?
I do. So when you're working with me, if I'm coaching you, then my team does it for you. Because I was finding a lot of times, Chris, that was a roadblock. So I would help people, and they would just hit it, and I would help them. And then when it came to actually building the course, crickets. Don't hear from them. You don't hear from them ever again. I'm like, what's going on? What happened? You did all of this work. And they were like, well, I don't know how to build it, or I'm not tech savvy. So I was like, okay, Angelique, how do we rectify that? Again, always being solution oriented, because I could just be like, well, why is everybody failing? Now I feel bad about myself. No, okay, what's the solution? Okay, let me bring in a team, and hey, get the videos to us. We'll build it out for you. We'll get all your automations. We'll make sure everything is ready to go. We will even help you launch it. Now there's no more excuses, right? But that's over iterations. That's figuring out, okay, this is where the roadblock is for my clients, and figuring out how I can help them have a better experience working with me, and having a better experience making money, get them out and launch so they can make the money. So yeah, we build it out. But I always think about this too. If you have zero money, because that is somebody is somewhere, still create those videos. Like we said, put them into a Google folder. Let people know you have a course, put them all in order, put them in order in the Google folder. And then when somebody buys, they can pay PayPal. Once you get that money from them, you shoot them the link to your folder. That's it.
Yep.
That's free. You don't have to do anything to make this money. Okay. So again, I am all for my people because I get it. Okay. So if you want, I repeat that. If you don't have a Google Drive, you can get that. That's free. Okay. You just need a Gmail account. Everybody gets that. Get your Gmail account. You now have a Google Drive. Upload, if you don't know how to do that, Google that. But upload your videos into a folder. When somebody pays you, you copy that link, send it to them. They now have all the videos. That is a free way to now, there's no tech involved in that.
Mm-hmm.
No excuses, right? No excuses, coach.
No excuses.
You ain't got no excuses.
Only solutions.
Yes.
That's what I love. And do you recommend people doing workbooks alongside their videos?
You know what? I would say women really love workbooks. So if you do anything for women, women love a workbook. So yes, I would. But if you don't have a workbook, that's okay. But if you do, put those into a PDF, and yeah, then you can make them fillable. But that is the best way. But to answer your question, because I didn't answer it completely, yes, we build out courses, but you also can use Teachable, you can use Kartra, you can use Kajabi, like those, Samcart. Those are all very good platforms. If you're going to do your course yourself, you can do it. It's really drag and drop. There's a little bit of tech involved in it, but I'm pretty sure their tech staff will walk you through it. So yes, there are plenty of platforms that you can go ahead and upload your stuff to and get it done.
Good, good. We've been going for 50 minutes. I have one last question for you that I wasn't sure I was going to ask, but I'm curious to see what your take is on it. I have friends that have done courses. I personally have never done a course.
Okay.
I've had people ask me to do courses. It's just something that's never been on the top of my mind. But one of my friends recently, he does a bunch of courses, and I said, how's the execution on your courses? Because I guess when you're on these online platforms, you can see how many people download it, and you can see the progress of how many people are doing it. So obviously, you being the queen in the space, what has been your experience recently with people buying courses and not necessarily completing? And that's the first part of the question. And the second part of the question is, what advice do you have for people who have courses online, or they're going to put courses online, to get people to actually execute and do them? Because I heard some sort of outrageous percentage, like 80 to 90% of all courses purchased aren't completed. And so obviously you make the money and you get the course sold. So your job is kind of done. But for me, I would be thinking like, okay, I want them to finish it. So what do I do to get them to finish it? So two-part question. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so that basically answers the question. I was going to come with that same stat. They say that 85% of people won't ever finish the full course. So how do we solution-based, how do we attack that? So first and foremost, something that you can do is like kind of what you said. Maybe you can include a group coaching program or piece to it. You don't have to meet with them every day or every week or something like that, but maybe every month, and maybe you walk them through a module each time. Or you ask them like, hey, what questions do you have for me? And then bring your questions next time and next time. So that's one way that you can kind of keep the people engaged in it, because they get the online component of it and they get to talk to you. That's going to allow people I've seen a much better conversion and much more people finishing the course when there's that component to it. Another thing that you can do is there's a lot of gamification now that people are now doing. So if you have quizzes, or if you have posts, things of that nature at the end. So people want to get that endorphin hit, right? Every time they end, they get a prize, or they get a certificate, or they get some points. There's all kinds of stuff. That gamification definitely works. Also, we got to look at ourselves as course creators, right?
Right.
And I'm guilty myself. It is our job. It is our job to create content that makes people want to finish. So what I do with my course, I do have a self-study course. At the end of each one, I'm having them do a learning activity that adds one more piece of them creating a course. So by the end of this, if you finish the course, you'll now have a course that you can make money from. Okay. So if we do a better job as course creators and having them do something, take action, everybody can just sit there and watch the video and they're, and go on with their life. But if you let them know, like, hey, if you're serious about this and you really want to make money, or you really want to make an impact, or whatever they want to do, finish each one and take action. Just take 20 minutes and do this one lesson. They'll do that. And then at the end, if they have something tangible, whether it's a business plan or they've lost some weight, they're going to want to finish, because they're seeing results. So I would put it on the onus on us. It is on us to make better courses.
Angelic Marnier, thank you for being here on the Raw Unscripted Show. My God, we've been going for such a long time. I know people are clamoring to get a hold of you. Where can people find out more information about you, my friend?
Oh, thank you guys. Appreciate that. So, you put it up there. So I am if you want to go to my website, that is monetizeyourgenius.us. So that's with the Z. So MONETIZE, and then Your Genius. So YOURGENIUS.US. So you can find me there, monetizeyourgenius.us. Come check me out there.
Also, they can get a hold of you on email.
Yep. Yeah. Feel free to reach out. I love when people email me. So it's my name, ANGELIC, and then the same one. So I'm going to repeat it again. Monetize Your Genius. So MONETIZEYOURGenius.US.
Awesome. And you're on Instagram as well?
Yep. Instagram, Angelic.Marnier. So A, N as in Nancy, G as in George, E as in Edward, L as in Larry, I as in Igloo, C as in Cat, Dot. Don't forget that dot, y'all. Put that dot in there. And then Marnier, M as in Mary, A-R, N as in Nancy, I-E, R as in reindeer. So Angelique.Marnier.
Awesome. Angelique, thank you so much for being here. And I'll make sure that this is in the show notes as well. All this information is in there. So if you're driving and listening to this, you can always go back to the show notes and check that out. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here, my friend. I appreciate you. I'm going to put you backstage. Don't go anywhere so I can still talk with you, but I'm going to close out the show. But thank you again for being here.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate you and everybody who was listening. Thank you to your listeners. This was so much fun. Time just went by.
It did. All right. I'll be with you in just a second. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. So you've been inspired. You've been hooked with what it is that you could do. So if you're in need of money, here's your marching orders from the Raw Unscripted guy himself, the No Excuses guy herself. Take what she said, take out a piece of paper and write down, what am I good at? What am I an expert at? Who are the people that I serve? Who comes to me for information? I was helping somebody recently, like she gave an example of raising a 13-year-old boy. And I said, who do people come to you for the most of? They come to me with mom questions, like because people are becoming brand new moms and my kids are off in college. They're asking me questions like, what do I do with the baby? What do I do to set up the college fund? What do I do for reinforcement? Do I do timeout? I've heard bad. So she's become the mommy expert. And I said, well, why don't you just call yourself the mommy expert and just create a social media presence and start answering those questions and create a brand for yourself. And then ultimately you can do that. So if you're watching and listening to this and you're struggling and you need finances, take Angelique's advice to heart and be able to sit there and say, what am I the expert of? Who is it that I serve? And then start listing out the process of what it is that you do. And then start developing that social media presence, start answering those questions. Maybe sit there and say, okay, on Wednesdays at noon, I'm going to go live and I'm going to answer your questions about raising a kid. And then you take those questions and you save those. And then you create a PDF download, like the top 10 questions that new moms should always be asking and answering for themselves, whatever it might be. Just keep taking that imperfect action, ladies and gentlemen. That's the problem with it, is we sit there and we think, oh, it's got to be perfect and I'll start it someday. But just start taking that action every single day and you're going to build it. You're going to build that side hustle and sit there and say, okay, realize that it's not going to be overnight and it's not going to be easy, but as you differentiate yourself and you serve those people that are special and close to you, and you get your kicks off of doing it, and you feel completed and you feel like you're living your purpose, that energy will feed upon itself and you will continue to rise up to the top. I became the No Excuses coach against so many people's opposing opinion. They're like, Chris, you're successful as a suit and tie speaker. You shouldn't swear. You shouldn't wear the hat and the bandana. People aren't going to get you. But I sat there and I said at the ultimate day, if I'm going to suck at this, I'm going to suck at this being me. And so I encourage you guys, wherever you're at in your journey, start today. Start taking that imperfect action. Set aside some time every single day. I'm going to set aside 15 minutes a day to brainstorm on this. And guess what? Over a period of 14 days, you're going to have 14 days of 15 minutes a day. I don't know what that multiplies out to be. Then you're going to have a bunch of notes. And then you start taking action on those notes. Like, what do I want to be called? I wasn't No Excuses coach right away. My whole thing was the kick-ass guide to life. It was like this, I'm going to create this guide to life that's going to help people who are sarcastic and funny and want that kind of sense of humor, but want the straight ahead motivation and inspiration. It wasn't until I worked with my coach and she said, give me 2 reasons why you're still here today. And I said, I never gave myself excuses and I never stopped. And so if you see my social media, I always say unstoppable. And I'm sitting there, No Excuses coach. I have bands that say it. I don't do a great job of selling my shit, but I have No Excuses band. And on the other side, it says, you got to believe. And then I got another one that says unstoppable. So I own that space. I am unstoppable. I'm the No Excuses coach. If people sit there and think I'm going to be rough with them, I'm not going to be rough with them. I'm not going to tolerate your excuses. Own who you are at the end of the day, because you're unique and we need your uniqueness in this world. We don't need another Tony Robbins. People compare me to Tony Robbins. I was like, I don't even watch Tony Robbins anymore. I appreciate what he does and everything, but I'm my own person. I fly my freak flag and I serve the people that want to show up here and be raw and unscripted, that want that no excuses type of mentality, that know that I love them with the bottom of my heart, but I love them so much that I'm not going to let them shoot themselves in the foot. And so if you're shooting yourselves in the foot, stop it. And I know so many of you probably set out these goals at the beginning of the year. It's already fucking June. It's already June. Half of the year is already over. And you're sitting there saying, oh, it's too late. And I suck. And you're using all this defeating language with yourself. Stop it. Stop it. Just realize you're in this moment right here and right now, because everything that has happened and everything that is happening is preparing you for what's next. And perhaps you needed to hear this message tonight from Angelique. You needed to hear this conversation between the two of us to get inspired, to realize, you know what, Chris, I am constantly thinking about perfection. I am constantly thinking about someday. I'm going to tell you guys, I'm 55 years old. Just a minute ago, I was 35 years old. 35 years old. Just a minute ago, I was 45 years old. My wife is going to be 45 this year. I told her, man, when I was 45, I was unstoppable. 46, I started having major back issues and my body started slowly falling apart. It's not falling apart by any stretch, but in the grand scheme of things, I'm not 30 anymore. And I look back and I'm like, where did those years go? Time is going to fly by. And what is incumbent upon you is to sit there and say, you know what? I'm tired of not taking action. I'm tired of my own excuses. I'm tired of wallowing in my self-pity. I'm tired of talking negatively to myself. I'm going to hire some people. I'm going to get them into my life. I'm going to sell some shit that I don't need anymore. And I'm going to make the investment in myself to get these experts into my life. And guess what? In 6 months to a year, your life can be totally, totally different. And no, it's not going to be easy, but Chris, it's going to be so hard. Yeah, it's going to be so hard, but guess what? It's going to be fucking worth it. When you're riding high and you're being able to lead by example and you're inspiring your friends and you're inspiring your kids and you're looking back on your life and you're realizing that you get to leave a legacy that you're proud of. How fucking cool is that? How cool is that? You get to leave a legacy, that you get to be known for something. We got Robert Broker in the house. He's sitting here commenting. Thank you, Robert. I apologize for not getting your comments. I've been wrapped up in the conversation. He says, I'm fairly certain I found a way to do this. More to follow moving forward. Yes. That's what it's all about. He says, thank you both, eh? Yeah, he's Canadian. I think you're Canadian. So thank you, Robert, for being here. Share this out if it inspires you. I know a lot of you guys are going to be watching this tomorrow on the replay. Ask any questions you want of Angelique and myself. We're here to help and serve you. But I know for me, I would not be sitting here having this conversation with you right now if I did not have my coach. If I did not invest in masterminds, if I did not invest in courses and just continually to immerse myself. Every single day I watch YouTube videos that inspire me, that help me deal with challenges that I have. I listen to audiobooks. I'm constantly having that thirst and that knowledge satisfied in my brain so that I'm better every single day. That 1% improvement. I was just actually watching a video before this that talked about that 1% improvement. So oftentimes we're trying to have this exponential improvement, but every single day in every single way, you take care of your hydration, your nutrition, your sleep, your exercise, and your vitamin D. Guess what? You start feeling better. You start making better decisions. You start following through on things. You stop tolerating the bullshit. You stop tolerating your excuses. You start taking action. You start to feel more confident. You start to feel better. You start to take more action. It all builds on itself. And then in 6 months, you look back and go, wow, I'm not even that version of myself anymore. I've changed so much. And yes, you're going to outgrow people in your life. And yes, you need to have those conversations because people are holding you back. You need to wish them well, right? Misery loves company for a fucking reason. So you wish them well and you keep marching on to your own beat. It's not being selfish. It's self-love. And at the end of the day, what legacy are you leaving? And then are your actions supporting that legacy? Yes or no? And if they're not, wish those people well, wish that version of yourself well, and continue to rock your freak flag and go out there and be the unique person that you deserve to be because the world needs you. The world needs you. I love and appreciate you guys. I'm going to be back here next week with another episode. And I think next week is we're in for a treat. I got my sister from another mister. I'm pretty sure it is. Yes. So I have Meredith McIntosh on next week. You want to talk about somebody who is straight up. Meredith's been on the show before. We used to do Clubhouse together. She is straight up. I call her ghetto sometimes because she hates that, but straight up people have a way of getting through to us. So Meredith's going to be on the show next week. Be here next Tuesday night live with us. Watch the video cast 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Check out the podcast, wherever podcasts are sold. Just go in there and type in Raw and Unscripted and you guys will find it, or go to rawandunscripted.com and you'll find the show there and you'll find all the links. I love and appreciate you. Make sure you connect with Angelique and make sure you connect with yourself and you serve your higher regard. All right. Life is short. No regrets.